What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Storm the Source back with another hot take. So, when thinking about the revolutionary aspects of Half-Life, the first features coming to people's minds are probably the introduction of a narrated plot inside a video game, or how Half-Life relegated the concepts of levels to the past in favor of a continuous adventure, with chapters flowing seamlessly one into the other, or how lively and interactive the world felt, with plenty of NPCs you could either talk to, play tricks on, cooperate with, or straight up abuse.
Somebody, please help me. I'm dying out here.
However, I believe that another revolutionary aspect of Half-Life consists in its realism. Now, you might think I'm crazy to consider a game where a bunch of deranged scientists open a portal to another parallel alien dimension and unknown creatures start flooding Earth, but please hear me out. Let's start with the second types of enemies you fight, the HECU soldiers, loved by the fans but hated by every scientist.
Last, thank God you're here.
Before Half-Life, no FPS game actually exhibited modernly equipped soldiers as foes you could slay. Sure, Wolfenstein 3D and Rise of the Triad presented Nazi soldiers, but they are historical figures and nowadays the Nazi has become more of a gaming trope than an actual military you have to fight. It's almost dehumanized in a sense. So Half-Life has got the HECU, which stand for Hazardous Environment Combat Unit. Cool ass name if you ask me. And these guys are literally Marines, hence humans in flesh and bones, just like Freemen, and they are indeed specially equipped to be ready for the hazardous place Black Mesa's turned into after the cascade, and they have to complete their one and only murderous mission: eliminate all evidence of the disaster, alive and breathing personnel included. These opposing forces are comparable to soldiers you might fight in Metro 2033 or Call of Duty 4. Some of them wear helmets to protect their frail heads, since in Half-Life headshot actually deal more damage, which is all in all a realistic mechanic which few games had implemented before. The HECU boys also shoot realistic guns. They in fact fire their SPAS 12s, MP5s or M4s for HD model fans, and if when dealing with alien enemies you can juke out of their attacks, when Marines are shooting at you, you have to adopt a realistic tactic, such as finding cover if you don't want to meet your maker, or you can just pop their heads with a revolver bullet or supercharged shotgun blast. This adds a new gameplay layer to the game, which some people find frustrating cause they think Marines are OP when they're actually just strong. These soldiers throw grenades too, and they are inhumanly precise with them as well. They also use military turrets, mines and claymores to their advantage, and of course, you'll have to deal with them in one way or another. They have even set up sniper nests with camouflage covers that, similarly to Harry Potter invisibility cloak, makes them invisible to the player's eye, at least up until you don't turn them into gory gibs. The military also calls in airstrikes to turn your favorite facility into dust, and it has also brought in armored units in Black Mesa, such as M1A1 Abrams and M2A3 Bradley, which you can happily blow up in Surface Tension and Follow Freeman. Hell, in Follow Freeman, you can even make use of the Abrams to blast a door and a bunch of Vortigons and Alien Grunts. Let's not forget about the helicopters too. They are a rather nice target to test your RPG or Gauss gun on. In short, Half-Life lets you fight realistic military type of enemies, which, unlike the aliens, bleed real red blood. Well, Barnacles bleeds red too. They have their own voice lines, used to either tactically strategize against the Freeman.
Come in, Cooper. Do you copy? Forget about Freeman. We're abandoning the base. If you have any last bomb targets, mark them on the tactical map. Otherwise, get the hell out of there. Repeat, we are pulling out and commencing airstrikes.
Or to complain like frightened babies in opposing force.
I got a bad feeling about this mission.
And the realistic part about facing these enemies is that you have to face them with modern and realistic weapons as well. In fact, up until you get the Gauss gun, Half-Life showcases weapons that are very much grounded in reality. The Glock is, well, a Glock. The HD weapons pack starts a Beretta instead, which is another great handgun every Italian should be proud of. I have already mentioned the MP5 and M4, and overall, just like the HECU soldiers, Gordon Freeman gets access to their military-grade accessories, such as grenades, trip mines, and satchel charges, although HECU never used the latter weapon. And an RPG too, which is definitely a military type RPG, since it doesn't look and feels like the typical arcade rocket launcher that doesn't need manual reloading and that everybody enjoys using in Doom, Quake or Serious Sam. And yeah, let's talk about the reload mechanic. In fact, most guns in Half-Life needs to be reloaded. The exceptions are the experimental TOW cannon and glue-on gun, and it kinda makes sense how the more unrealistic weapons don't require any reloading, much like the unrealistic weapons in previous FPS games didn't need any as well. Now, I'm not 100% certain about Half-Life being the first FPS game requiring gun reloading, but it sure is one of the first. Combine the reloading mechanic with the headshot mechanic, which multiplies every damage dealt to the head by 3, and you got quite a realistic combat system. Therefore, it's not a surprise if Half-Life spawned a multiplayer shooter praised for its realism, at least up until Call of Duty 4 came out. I'm obviously talking about Counter-Strike, which adds leg shots, chest shots or arm shots, and a quite uncontrollable recoil to its guns, making the experience feel even more realistic. I mention Call of Duty 4 a lot because it's the game that gave birth and paved the way to all those types of modern military shooters we all know and that in 2022 we're all bored of. Call of Duty 4 not only presented soldiers belonging to various factions from all around the world, but introduced two mechanics that for many modern gamers seem to be the baseline for every FPS game, such as iron sight and sprinting, and a lot of animations while climbing. Crappy game mechanics if you ask me, but I understand how they can increase immersion for some gamers. Half-Life might have been ahead of its time, but not so much to implement iron sights and sprinting, and I'm honestly glad it has none of them. Before ending the video, I must also acknowledge the second faction of soldiers Gordon has to face and Adrian Shepard must solely fight against. I'm talking about the Black Ops, which are just as cool as the HECU soldiers. The Assassins variant is sure as hell sexier than the HECU if you ask me. This secondary faction intricates and expand Half-Life plot even further, but most importantly, it's fun to turn them into gibs. Oh, and did you know that the male Black Ops can take headshot damage? Those balaclavas or masks they wear must be as thick as chainmail. So, to conclude, since in Half-Life you get to fight actual marines with guns that exist in real life, like Glocks and MP5, and considering the headshot and reloading gameplay mechanics, I truly believe the pseudo-realism you get from these aspects are another innovation for the time Half-Life came out. And so this is it, boys. Feel free to comment, subscribe, share your opinion, especially in the comments. Bye.